It was barely past 7 in the morning when Isabel Moreno stepped out of her small apartment and into the street that always felt a little too cold, even in spring. Not because of the weather, although the wind that morning did seem to slice right through her cheap denim jacket, but because of something deeper. A silence in the neighborhood that didn't feel like peace. It felt like resignation. Isabel adjusted the strap of her worn-out tote bag and started walking toward the subway station. Same route. Same cracked sidewalks. Same faces that didn't look up. Brooklyn had become her routine, not her home. But it was what she had, and she was too tired to want more. She worked the morning shift at a bakery that smelled like sweetness but paid in crumbs. Minimum wage. Burnt fingers. The kind of job where the customers never remembered your name, only their order. Medium latte, 2 sugars, no eye contact. But that morning, that exact morning, something different happened. At the corner of 42nd and Lexington, seated on a concrete bench outside the 7-Eleven, was a man Isabel hadn't seen before. He was slouched forward, elbows on knees, hands clasped like he was holding himself together with nothing but the pressure of his own fingers. His face was unshaven, jaw tight, eyes empty. Not in the way homeless people look empty, but in the way people who've lost everything inside themselves look. He wore a hoodie, dark jeans, and shoes that weren't new, but weren't dirty either. People passed him without seeing him. Rushed. Indifferent. But Isabel, she paused. Just for a second. Their eyes met. And instead of looking away like she always did, she offered him something so simple, so small, it almost didn't feel like anything at all. She smiled. Not a polite, distant smile. A human one. The kind you give when you recognize pain and don't need to know its story to respect its weight. And just like that, something changed in his face. Barely. A twitch. A blink. A subtle confusion, as if he couldn't remember the last time someone looked at him like he was still a person. She didn't speak. Didn't offer food. Didn't stop. She just kept walking. But his eyes followed her. And for reasons she couldn't explain, she felt it long after she turned the corner. That night, after work, Isabel came home to the usual. A fridge with more emptiness than options. A voicemail from her mother in Queens reminding her about rent. And a flickering kitchen light that had been threatening to die for 2 months. She boiled water for tea she didn't really want and sat by the window, staring at the street like it might offer answers. But it only offered shadows. Still, her mind went back to him. That man on the bench. Why had he looked so out of place? Too clean for the streets. Too broken for the world he probably came from. She shook the thought away. She had enough problems of her own. Bills. Overdraft fees. A manager who called her sweetheart with the kind of tone that made her skin crawl. But the image of his eyes, still, dark, bottomless, stayed. The next morning, he was there again. Same spot. Same posture. But this time, when she passed, he did something she wasn't expecting. He nodded. Just once. And she smiled again. That became their ritual. No words. Just that silent recognition. A loop neither of them tried to break. Until the 5th day. That morning, it was raining. Not hard, but steady. Isabel didn't have an umbrella, so she wrapped her scarf around her head and made the walk anyway. She figured he wouldn't be there in the rain. But he was. Same bench. Hoodie damp. Hands clasped. When she smiled that time, he spoke. Why do you do that? She stopped walking. What? Smile. At me. His voice was rough, unused. But clear. Educated. Not what she expected. She hesitated. Because no one else does. His eyes narrowed. You don't even know me. I don't need to, she said simply. You looked like you forgot you mattered. And I just wanted to remind you. He didn't say anything. Neither did she. She turned to leave. But before she stepped off the curb, he called out again. My name's Nathan. She paused. I'm Isabel. That was all. But it was enough to break something open. That night, she didn't sleep well. Not because of fear, but because for the first time in a long while, her thoughts didn't circle her own problems. They wandered into the possibility that someone else's pain might be greater, or maybe just different in a way that mirrored her own. She knew how it felt to sit in silence no one tried to fill, to walk through life unseen. And now, someone had seen her back. A stranger, with eyes that looked like cracked glass. But maybe, just maybe, glass could be mended, even if it never looked the same. The following week unfolded like a slow whisper. Every morning, Isabel walked past the same bench. Every morning, Nathan was there. And every morning, the exchange between them grew less silent. It started with eye contact, then names, then quiet good mornings, spoken like secrets neither of them wanted the world to hear. But it wasn't conversation. Not yet. There was something about Nathan that felt like a building with its windows boarded up, sturdy, but unreadable. His voice was measured, his movements deliberate. He was polite, but always held something back. And Isabel, though careful, found herself wondering more than she meant to. Who was he? Why was he always sitting there? What had happened to make a man look that hollow and still somehow carry himself like he used to own the ground he walked on? One Thursday, the question slipped out. They were both watching the morning traffic, cars blurring past in a blur of gray and noise. Isabel had stopped beside him, one foot already aimed toward the subway. "Do you live around here?" she asked gently. Nathan's jaw clenched. "No." She waited, expecting the end of the sentence. But he just looked away. She didn't push. Just nodded and walked on. But the next morning, when she arrived, he was already standing, holding 2 coffees. He extended one to her without a word. It was still warm. She raised an eyebrow. "You guessed. You don't seem like the milk and sugar type." She took a sip. Black. Strong. Bitter. Perfect. A smile played on her lips. "Okay." 1 point for the mystery man. He looked relieved, just for a second. They stood side by side in silence, the bench behind them now more like a landmark than a seat. And for the first time, Nathan spoke first. "I used to work 3 blocks from here." Isabel turned toward him, surprised. He continued, eyes still fixed on the traffic. "Corner office. View of the East River. Meetings all day. Always in a rush. Always thinking I was important." He paused. "I haven't been back in months." She studied him quietly. "What happened?" His hands tightened around the coffee cup. "Something I can't undo." The way he said it, flat, final, made her chest tighten. Not out of judgment. Out of recognition. Isabel didn't ask for details. Instead, she offered him something else. "I used to be in nursing school," she said softly. 3rd semester. Straight A's. I wanted to work with kids." Nathan glanced at her. "What happened?" She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "My father died. My mother fell apart. Rent was due. I dropped out, got a job. Been working ever since." He blinked slowly. "You don't seem bitter." She shrugged. "What's the point? Bitterness doesn't pay bills." Nathan looked down at his shoes. And then, quietly, "I got someone fired. Ruined their reputation. Publicly. Loudly. Because I needed a scapegoat." Isabel didn't respond. He took a breath. "They had a family. I didn't care. Not then. I cared about saving face. About numbers. About investors. And now, I sit here." His voice cracked on the last word. Not dramatically. Not for effect. Just enough to sound human. Isabel's heart ached, not just for him, but for the version of herself that had once believed people like him didn't bleed. But they did. Sometimes deeper than anyone expected. And sometimes, It wasn't the act that haunted you. It was realizing how long you'd been okay with who you were before the act. That day, they didn't speak much more. But when she left, he said something he hadn't said before. "Thanks for stopping." 2 words. But they stayed with her. That night, she skipped scrolling through her phone. She sat by the window with a blanket and replayed every word, every pause, every glance. Nathan was more than sad. He was unraveling. And somehow, without knowing why, she wanted to catch whatever pieces still remained. The next morning, she arrived 5 minutes early. He was already there, this time standing, pacing slightly. He looked up when he saw her and for the first time, really smiled. Not just with his mouth. With his eyes. And Isabel felt something shift inside her. Not love. Not yet. But the beginning of something she hadn't allowed herself to feel in years. Possibility. Saturday brought a different kind of quiet. The city still roared around them, but the corner where Nathan sat felt like its own little pocket. Slowed, sealed off, untouched. Isabel didn't work weekends, but she found herself walking the same route anyway. No rush. No excuse. Just pulled. When she turned the corner and saw him already waiting there, coffee in hand again, she felt something in her chest loosen. He noticed it too. That she was no longer just passing by. That maybe, just maybe, she was coming to him. "You don't work today," he said, handing her the cup. She shook her head. Didn't feel like staying home. Nathan gave a soft smile. "Me neither." They stood in the same spot, side by side, facing the street, but it didn't feel like avoidance anymore. It felt like a shared direction. Like 2 people looking at the same world from different wounds. "So," she said between sips, "do you just sit here every day?" He glanced sideways. "I walk. I think. I come back." She smiled. "A man of routine." "I guess so. Is that who you were before?" "Routine guy." Nathan didn't answer right away. His jaw worked through something invisible. "I used to be someone who thought time was money. Who believed in calendars more than people. I wore suits that cost more than most people's rent. And I convinced myself that I was making the world better." She looked at him now. Not judging. Just seeing. What changed? Nathan hesitated. "I stopped believing myself." A gust of wind blew through the avenue. Isabel pulled her jacket tighter, but didn't move closer. Still, the space between them had already shrunk in ways that couldn't be measured in inches. He looked down at her shoes, scuffed, wet at the toes. "You know, you could have walked right past me that first day." "I know. Why didn't you?" She took a breath. "I saw myself in you. That kind of sadness, it's not always loud. Sometimes it just sits in the eyes." He nodded, slowly. "And what did you see in my eyes?" "Something that was trying hard not to ask for help." Nathan's throat moved, like he was swallowing a truth too big to say. They stood like that for a while. No movement, no agenda. Just presence. Until Isabel's phone buzzed. She ignored it. But Nathan noticed. "You should get that. It's just my mom." "You close?" Isabel gave a soft laugh. "Close, yeah. But she worries too much. Ever since my dad died, she's been stuck in this loop. Calls me 3 times a day just to ask if I ate. Or if I'm okay. Like I'm still 15. He nodded. "And are you okay?" The question caught her off guard. Not because of the words. But because of the way he asked. Gently. Without performance. Like he actually wanted to know. "I don't know," she said finally. "Some days yes. Most days. I just keep moving." Nathan looked at her, and for a split second, she felt exposed. Not in a dangerous way. In a real way. Like he was peeling back the surface and not flinching at what he found beneath it. "Movement helps," he said. But eventually, you crash." Their eyes met again. And this time, something passed between them that wasn't friendly. It wasn't romantic either. It was deeper, heavier. Recognition. The kind that only exists between people who've lost more than they can explain. After a long pause, Isabel spoke again. You never said what you did. Back then. For work. Nathan exhaled. Finance. Private equity. I was one of those people who made decisions that affected lives I never saw. Layoffs. Mergers. Restructures. I was paid to be cold. And now I sit on a bench. She tilted her head. That's not all you do. No. You also listen. He chuckled. A real one this time. You're hard to read, he said. So are you. She reached into her tote bag and pulled out a granola bar, offering it to him. He looked surprised but took it without hesitation. Breakfast? He asked. Bribe, she replied. For what? To get you to say something honest. Nathan smiled. Careful. You might get addicted to honesty. Too late. He unwrapped the bar, took a bite, chewed slowly. I used to have assistants who curated my meetings down to the second. Chauffeurs. A penthouse. My own name on the side of a building. She raised an eyebrow. And now you're here. He nodded. She looked down at the coffee in her hand, then back at him. Do you regret it? There was a long pause before he spoke. No. Why not? Because no one ever smiled at me like you did when I was on top of the world. The words hit hard. Because they weren't romantic. They were true. Isabel felt the street disappear beneath her feet for a moment. And in its place, something deeper settled between them. A kind of understanding that didn't need fixing or naming. Just holding. Just honoring. The city roared on around them. Taxis, sirens, footsteps, noise. But on that corner, on that quiet, stained sidewalk bench, a man who had once been rich and a woman who had never been anything but real stood still. And in that stillness, something impossible was happening. They were being seen. By each other. By themselves. And it was just the beginning. It started to feel like a ritual. Coffee. Bench. Silence. Words. By the end of the second week, Isabel wasn't just passing by Nathan anymore. She was meeting him. She never said that out loud, not even to herself, but she felt it. In the way her steps grew faster near the corner. In the way she stopped checking the time once they were together. But things were shifting. Not just between them. Around them. That morning, the light was different. Gray, cold, the kind of sky that threatened rain but never delivered. Nathan was already there, but something was off. His posture was tighter. Shoulders hunched. Eyes distant. She approached slowly. No coffee today, she asked. He didn't look at her. Just shook his head. She sat beside him anyway, careful not to ask too much too soon. Minutes passed. The street buzzed around them, but they stayed still. Finally, he spoke. They found me. Her stomach tightened. Who? He glanced at her. Then looked away again. People from my old life. A former colleague saw me here 2 days ago. He didn't say anything then. But today, he called. Asked if I was okay. Asked why I was here. Isabel swallowed. And what did you say? I hung up. Silence. Heavy. Uncomfortable. I knew this would happen eventually, Nathan said. You can't disappear forever. Not when your name still means something to people who know how to use it. You wanted to disappear? He hesitated. I needed to. Isabel nodded slowly. You can tell me to mind my business, but, are you hiding from something? Or someone? He looked at her then, really looked. Like he was trying to decide how much truth she could handle. I stepped down. Publicly. Big announcement. Claimed I needed time to reflect. Truth is, I was forced out. I leaked something. Something I wasn't supposed to have. Thought I was doing the right thing. Whistleblower. I thought I'd feel proud. But I felt empty. Betrayed by the people I once protected. And worse, by myself. I thought I'd walk away clean. But some stains don't wash off. He let out a bitter laugh. Turns out, there's no glory in being right when you're alone. Isabel sat back, letting his words settle. And now, I don't know. Part of me wants to go back. Fix it. Take my seat at the table again. The other part. He trailed off. What does the other part want? She asked. Nathan turned to her. You. It wasn't a flirtation. It wasn't even romantic. It was confession. Raw. Undressed. I don't mean have you, he clarified. I mean this. The mornings. The silence. The not pretending. Isabel felt her throat tighten. Nathan. He looked down. I know. It's not real. This isn't a movie. I'm just a man sitting on a bench, and you're... I'm what? She interrupted. He blinked. You're the only person who's looked at me and not asked what I used to be. Her chest ached, because she knew what it meant to be seen in the now. To not be measured by the wreckage behind you. He stood suddenly. I should go. She stood too. Where? He shook his head. Nowhere. Somewhere. Isabel stepped closer, voice trembling. Why are you running again? I'm not, he said. I'm just afraid that if I stay, I'll start to need this more than I should. She didn't stop him. Just watched him walk away. No drama. No last look. But the moment left a mark. That night, she didn't sleep. She watched the rain from her window and tried to forget the way his voice had cracked. The way she had let him go without asking him to stay. Because needing someone doesn't mean you're ready for them. And sometimes, connection shows up too early. Before the healing. Before the courage. Before the soul is quiet enough to receive. But the street was still there. The bench too. And somewhere, Nathan was walking. Maybe not away. Maybe just, in circles. Until he was ready to return. If he ever was. 3 days passed. No sign of Nathan. No message. No call. Not even a shadow on the bench. Isabel tried to carry on. She worked. She smiled at customers. She nodded at co-workers. She walked the same streets. But something had shifted inside her, something she didn't know how to name. It wasn't heartbreak. They were never together. It wasn't grief. He wasn't gone. It was the ache of interruption. Of something that had finally started to bloom, and then was gone before it could root. Every morning, she passed the bench. Slower than usual. Every morning, she told herself not to look. And every time, she looked anyway. Empty. Each time. Until Wednesday. She turned the corner and almost didn't notice him. He was standing this time, not seated. No hoodie. No coffee. Wearing a dark coat. Hair combed back. Clean shaven. He looked put together. But his eyes betrayed it. Still tired. Still heavy. Still him. She slowed, unsure. He saw her and smiled. But not the smile she remembered. This one was careful. Like a wall that was learning how to bend, but not break. Hey, he said softly. Hey, she echoed. They stood there a moment, the sounds of the city swirling around them like background noise in a scene too fragile to hold sound. I went away, he said. Upstate. Alone. I needed to breathe. She nodded. I figured. I didn't want to just vanish. But you did. He swallowed hard. I'm not good at staying. Isabel looked down at the sidewalk. Then why are you here now? He didn't answer right away. Instead, He reached into his coat pocket and pulled out a folded sheet of paper. I wrote you something. Her eyebrows lifted. You wrote me a letter? It's not a love letter, he said quickly. I wouldn't put that on you. I needed to put into words what I couldn't say when I left. She took the paper but didn't open it. Not yet. He stepped back. You don't have to read it now. I won't. Silence again. I came back, he said, almost in a whisper. Not because I figured it out, but because I realized disappearing didn't fix anything. It just made the silence louder. Isabel's throat tightened. You scared me, she said. I know. You made me wonder if I imagined the whole thing. You didn't. Her eyes met his. Then why did you run? He didn't flinch this time. Because I wanted something real. And I didn't believe I deserved it. There it was. The truth. Not wrapped in drama. Not disguised by charm. Just placed in front of her like a bruise that no longer needed to be hidden. She didn't speak. Didn't smile. Just stood there. Letting the air between them pulse with everything unspoken. I'm starting over, he said. Small. Quiet. No suits. No boardrooms. I'm doing freelance work from home. Consulting. Nothing glamorous. You're rebuilding, she said. He nodded. Trying. And why tell me all this? He took a step closer. His voice softened. Because when I was nothing, you saw me. She held his gaze. And in that moment, something shifted again. Not back to what they had, but toward something new. Slower. More grounded. Maybe even possible. Okay, she said. He blinked. Okay. She unfolded the paper slowly, scanning it. Then looked up. I'm not ready to fix anyone, Nathan. I'm still learning how to hold myself together. I don't want you to fix me, he said. I just want to be someone who doesn't make you feel alone in this world. Her eyes filled, but she didn't cry. You already are, she whispered. The street around them moved as always. But that bench, that corner, it had changed. It had become the place where endings met beginnings. Where a smile wasn't just a gesture. It was a door. And it had opened again. It was raining again. Not the loud, dramatic kind of rain. Just a steady curtain of water that blurred the edges of the city and made everything look softer. Isabel sat on the bench first this time. No coffee. No expectations. Just presence. Nathan arrived 5 minutes later, umbrella in hand, a quiet calm around him like he had made peace with the storm. He didn't sit immediately. He just looked at her. I almost didn't come today, he said. Why? Because I didn't know if I'd be welcome. Isabel looked up, eyes tired but kind. You still think you need permission to be human? Nathan gave a sad smile. I'm learning. He sat beside her. They didn't speak for a while. Rain fell steadily on the sidewalk in front of them, carving little rivers in the gutter, like life trying to find its way through cracks. Nathan reached into his pocket and pulled out something small, a folded paper napkin. He handed it to her without speaking. She opened it. A sketch. Pencil on paper. Rough, but beautiful. 2 people sitting on a bench. One smiling. The other still trying to. She blinked. You drew this. He nodded. It's how I remember the first time you looked at me. Isabel traced the lines with her fingers. You had no idea how much I needed that moment too, she said. You think I gave something to you, but you gave something back. He turned to her. What? Stillness. Safety. A reason to stop hiding how tired I really am. Nathan swallowed hard. I think we both forgot how to be held. Isabel nodded slowly. I don't want to be rescued, she said. I don't need a new life. I just want my own life to finally feel like it matters. It already does. He didn't say it like a promise. He said it like a truth she'd forgotten to believe. Isabel leaned back, letting the rain mist her face. She didn't wipe it away. She just sat there and let herself be. And Nathan, he didn't try to fill the silence. He sat with her in it. For the first time, neither of them needed the other to prove anything. Not worth. Not intention. Not love. What existed between them now wasn't romance. It was recognition. They had both lived in worlds that rewarded performance. And now, finally, they were free to just be. No more pretending. No more masks. Just two people on a bench. A woman who once smiled at a stranger and didn't expect anything in return. And a man who thought his life ended when the headlines forgot his name, but who was now beginning again, one quiet truth at a time. Isabel turned to him. What happens next? He shrugged. We keep showing up. Here. Wherever you are. She smiled. And this time, it wasn't the kind of smile you give to a sad man on the street. It was the kind you give to someone who stayed. If you liked this story, subscribe to the channel. See you in the next video.